Good morning. Welcome into the Dak Prescott Show on 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Oh, goodness. It's brought to you by the charbroiled oysters at Drago's Seafood Restaurant and Oyster Bar. A little seafood gumbo. I had some seafood gumbo earlier this week. It was delicious. I was on my guys' trip last weekend down at 30A, and, we usually go big dinner. Now, first night was Cigars. Great place, Sandestin Hilton. It's fun. We got the wine room. It's not necessarily a great restaurant, but it's a cool feel, and it's a great place for guys to dive into and, drink bourbon and eat a bunch of tomahawk steaks and so on. We actually went to a chain night 2. That's very unusual. Okay? We debated going to Cuvée 30A, but it was too far. And we needed TVs because we had all just watched Ole Miss and Bama together. And then Mississippi State and A&M. It's a split group, okay? Mississippi State and A&M was coming on. And Fleming's was the only one that we could get into the bar in front of TVs and still smash some steaks. But I will tell you this. We ordered a tomahawk. I did, and a buddy. There was 6 of us. Everybody ordered, But we split a tomahawk, and it wasn't the 96er like you ate in Texas, Blakey Blakester. But I will say this, for a chain, it was damn good. It was a damn good steak.
When you said chain, I figured you meant like Popeyes or something like that.
Stop it. You know damn well that's not happening. We also went to a place called Shunk Gullies for lunch, and it's spectacular. That's a cool place to watch football, because it's like this melting pot of SEC people. You see everything. State, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn. Anyway, I'll tell you more about my guys' trip maybe in the third hour. We want to welcome in the man, NFL insider, Steve Palazzolo, or Palazzolo, on the Modelo guest line, PFF.com. He's got a great podcast. And Steve joins us most every week at 8:30 on Thursday. Steve, I want to start with the MVP of the league, Dak Prescott. Size up how he has played to date and how he played over the weekend.
Of course, the MVP. You're making me hungry, by the way, with all these stories and the seafood gumbo and the steak. So now I know what I need to do this weekend. But Dak's played really well. I thought he played, an efficient game the other day. I think there's a few plays he'd want back over these last couple weeks, and that's what's hurting his PFF grade a little bit. I think we have him right outside the top 10 among quarterbacks, so he's not yet in MVP range for us. But overall, I'm so impressed with everything he's doing in the pocket, general accuracy, decision-making, again, outside of a few plays here and there. And, it's nice to see Dallas, too, getting guys like Dalton Schultz is our second highest graded tight end right now in the NFL. All of a sudden, he's this receiving weapon, and, it changes the narrative a little bit. We thought that they'd be this 3 wide receiver team. Gallup gets hurt. Cedric Wilson's playing really well. But I think it remains to be seen. It remains that Dallas has all these incredible weapons, and now the running game's getting going a little bit. The two-headed monster of Tony Pollard and Zeke. So I'm looking at Dallas as a whole and just saying this team is so much better than they were last year because they can win in multiple ways. And that actually takes a little bit of the pressure off Dak, I would say.
Okay. What do you make of the resurgence of Zeke? I mean, he disappeared for like 2.5 years. Is it just the fact that he may have seen the writing on the wall when they played the LA Chargers that Pollard had this great game and he need to get his act together? Or what do you make of it, Steve?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, Pollard was so good in that Chargers game. I mean, we did our own podcast about it. Like, hey, it's time to start Tony Pollard. Forget the contract. Just give this guy more touches because good stuff happens every time Pollard touches the ball. And all of a sudden, Zeke shows up on Monday Night Football against the Eagles, and he was running hard in both of these last 2 weeks as far as him trying to create, after contact and just running hard. It just feels like Zeke has a little bit more sense of urgency over these last couple of weeks, which is great. Again, it should never be a Zeke first team in Dallas. It should always be a Dak first team. You win and score points through the passing game. But when teams are working hard to stop the passing game, again, that's when you want to run the ball efficiently. So having Zeke and having Pollard running the way they are, it ends up becoming a huge weapon.
All right. What if I said I'm concerned that Kellen Moore will revert back to Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan-esque play calling or approach strategically. Do you think I should be worried about that, or do you think Kellen understands what you just framed up about getting the ball down the field through the air?
No, I think he does. My one concern would be the way, Dallas has won the last 3 weeks. The run game has been really good. Week 1 was all Dak, and they lost, even though it just came down to a field goal. Last year was Dak throwing for 400 yards every game, and they were losing. And again, it's not that you're supposed to just go try to throw for 400 yards. That's game flow type stuff. But the point is that they've won the last 3 weeks, and the defense has played better. I hope that they don't think that there's a huge correlation between, well, we're running the ball now and our defense is playing better, right? I don't think that that's necessarily the case. So that would be like my one concern, right? They've got all these games of just a passing offense where they gave up 1 million points, and then all of a sudden they started running it better and their defense played better. I think that's more coincidental than, correlation. It's more causation, right? So that would be like my one concern. I think Kellen Moore is a pretty good offensive coordinator, though. I think he does good enough stuff as far as early down passing and play action and motion and all these things that help put the quarterback in position to succeed. So my only concern is, as a team, if Dallas reverts back to the run game too much just because their defense is playing better, I think that could be a little bit of fool's gold where, again, it's still got to be, let's try to score as many points as possible with Dak at the head of that.
I agree. I mean, even like you said, Dalton Schultz and Cedric Wilson are emerging as really, really nice targets for Dak Prescott. Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus, on the Modelo guest line. What do you make of Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator and what he's been able to do in Dallas this year?
Yeah, I think the big thing has been simplifying things from what Mike Nolan did. That was always what I thought was a big advantage for Quinn. Simple is – I'm not trying to downplay the word simple, but they play fewer coverages. It's his strategy. It's his tactic. It's the way Seattle is run. You master a few coverages instead of trying to do everything. And that was what really screwed Dallas over last year, was trying to do too much and guys being out of position. So that's the first thing. They're getting a ton of turnovers. Trevon Diggs is just an incredible playmaker all of a sudden, right, with 5 interceptions through 4 games. So I think the turnover stuff is tough to be consistent with. Coaches talk about, hey, we're going to preach turnovers. If it was as simple as preaching, everybody would get 2 turnovers per game. There's a lot of luck involved there. But so far, so good for Dallas, turning the ball over, giving their offense good field position and things like that. But again, it's a little bit simple. They're getting after the quarterback. Micah Parsons has been a great addition as well. And, they're just not getting torched on the back end. So I like what Quinn has done so far for Dallas.
Okay. All right. So you have Dak just outside of the top 10 right now, according to Pro Football Focus quarterback ratings. Is that right for the year?
Yeah, I don't have the rankings in front of me, but I know he was right around in that range.
Okay.
Amongst others.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to we're visiting with Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Where is Justin Herbert as far as
he's third now, I believe, actually behind Daniel Jones, who's playing really well. And it's not necessarily, it's showing up in the stats, but not as much as it should. But we've got Herbert, I believe, third overall. He had a really nice game Monday night. And, Herbert, again, he's a good mix of he's not missing a ton of throws, and he's making the special throws. He was awesome on Monday night. Some of his best throws fell incomplete, deep crossing route that put it right on Keenan Allen's hands that he dropped. Really nice work in the red zone. So, yeah, Herbert has been absolutely fantastic as far as his decision-making, his accuracy, and it does look like he's built upon he had a strong rookie year. I was expecting maybe he'd regress a little bit because of where some of that success came from, but he hasn't. He's taken his game to another level so far through 4 weeks.
All right, some people are going to go, how in the world is Daniel Jones number 2 on the Pro Football Focus quarterback ratings? Walk me through it, Steve.
Yeah, so again, we grade every player on every play and try to isolate the player. So when Daniel Jones makes a great throw and it's dropped, we're giving him credit for that. In every other metric, does not. Even advanced metrics, whether it's, obviously passer rating, completion percentage says 0 for 1, passer rating, is 39.6 on that play. It's bad. Even like EPA and some of those advanced metrics, they don't account for that, but we do. And Jones has the second most first downs on passes beyond the sticks. So in other words, he's making good throws to move the chains, and he's doing this with behind an offensive line that hasn't been great. They're getting a little bit better, but they haven't been great. He's been under heavy pressure, and he's just making a ton of good throws. And the thing that's held Daniel Jones back the last couple of years is those turnover-worthy plays, namely fumbles in the pocket. I think he's only got one bad fumble in the pocket this year. That's something he's definitely cut down on, and he just hasn't put the ball in harm's way. He's not throwing passes that should be intercepted, right? That should be turnovers. So Jones is just playing a really good brand of efficient football. Even though the Giants are 1-3, they're also, an offsides away on a field goal, an offsides away from being 2-2, and they've been in some games. So, Jones is just playing a really good brand of football right now.
And all right, do I need to guess who's number one, Blake, on the Pro Football Focus quarterback ratings through 4 weeks?
It's the GOAT. It's the GOAT.
Jared Goff?
Goff did not make it to number one this week, no.
Okay. All right. It's not Zach Wilson.
Not Zach Wilson.
Who is it? Is it really Tom Brady?
It's Tommy, yeah. He's been
Have you got a bunch of
incredible.
Patriots fans inside the Pro Football Focus headquarters?
We watch every single throw.
Okay.
And again, Brady, did you forget week 1? What happened to your Cowboys? What Brady did to your Cowboys in week
terrible.
1? Did you forget that?
I know.
He had a 4-touchdown game. Not that touchdowns are the only thing, but he had a 4-touchdown game in week 1. He had a 5-touchdown game against the Falcons in week 2. He actually didn't play poorly against the Rams. They just, they lost, but he still played pretty well. And even in the Patriots game, he definitely missed a ton of throws in the rain. But did you see in the fourth quarter, he put 2 passes right there for a game-winning touchdown for Antonio Brown, 2 of them.
Yeah.
And he gets credit for those. If Antonio Brown catches that 3rd and 8, it's like the game-winning touchdown in Foxborough. It's one of the best throws. I mean, it already is, I think, one of the best throws of Brady's career. It just happened to get dropped. So, again, all of that stuff's accounted for in our system. Brady throwing the ball. He hasn't put the ball in harm's way at all as far as interceptions go. He's been awesome again this season.
How is this guy doing this? A Pro Football Focus,
I don't know.
number 1 quarterback, ratings through 4 weeks. Tom Brady. Daniel Jones is 2. Justin Herbert is 3. And there's got to be something going on. Dak Prescott is outside of the top 10. Blake, did you have something?
Yeah, you're talking about Brady's doing it, which is incredible. But I want to talk about another quarterback we just saw Sunday who has seemingly had a resurgence or, new spot, new shot, so to speak. Sam Darnold, former number 1 overall pick, actually performing. I know in fantasy he's like the number 5 quarterback through 5 weeks. What does Steve Palazzolo have to say about the Panthers and Matt Rule and maybe Joe Brady, future LSU head coach?
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, I think Brady is a big factor here. So, last year at this time, so one of the easiest things to do in my head is, because I trust PFF grades to isolate quarterback play, you look at the grade and then you look at the production. And if the production is better than the grade, it usually accounts for some sort of lock or supporting cast or whatever it is. Last year at this time, Teddy Bridgewater didn't have the best grade in the world, but the production was outstanding. So you usually say, okay, that's the Panthers receivers and that's Joe Brady. That was my prediction for Darnold. And I think we've seen some of that, except Darnold's he's playing pretty well. But Joe Brady has done a great job of using a really good receiving core, McCaffrey when he was healthy, to just create matchups, to get guys open. So Brady has a consistent track record of doing that. I do think Darnold's playing a lot closer to the way he played at USC, which is short and intermediate accuracy has been so much better now than it was with the Jets. He's still not great getting the ball down the field. So I think Darnold's been a little bit better, but he's absolutely been aided by a good situation in Carolina, other than the offensive line. The line's been tough, but the playmakers, Joe Brady's play calling has been fantastic. So we'll see where Darnold goes. I think if he's challenged a little bit more, I think he comes back down to earth a little bit. But it was good to see him develop, here in year 4 or year 5 after the mess with the Jets. Year 4? Yeah, 4.
4. Okay. Steve Palazzolo on the Modelo guest line, pff.com, Pro Football Focus. Who's the rookie that you're impressed with so far this year? QB.
It's still Mac Jones. At some point, you want to get him throwing the ball down the field a little bit more. But as far as he just completes passes, even on Sunday night, now he's kind of turtled up in the red zone, I'd say, a little bit this year. He hasn't made great throws there. He hasn't been great in that area. The Patriots' offense has stalled out a little bit. That's why they're not scoring a ton of points. But between the 20s, Jones has been really good. And it's been under pressure, making throws. He's every now and again you see the arm talent isn't at a level where he just – there's a couple passes that just defenders get to that his arm just doesn't get it there. But I've been impressed with where he stands in the pocket, makes throws. He's very accurate as advertised. And the Patriots have put a lot on his plate, running no huddle and various things like that. So I've been impressed with Mac Jones. There's more steps to be taken, but as far as early on, I think he's had the fewest egregious rookie moments in a year where Trevor Lawrence has had a bunch, Zach Wilson's had a bunch, Justin Fields has had a bunch, and Trey Lance hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities.
They just announced Fields as a starter, as you know, this week. How do you see that playing out this year for him? I mean, you expect him to get a little bit better every week? What do you make of that?
I would hope so. I mean, the Browns game was a disaster, and I know the Twitter narrative is everybody blame Matt Nagy. He called the plays, but it's like, all right, Justin Fields deserves some blame for this as well. Like everybody does. The offensive line was bad. Maybe the play calling wasn't great, but Fields also he's got to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. This was a problem at Ohio State. Now last week was better, and again, easy narrative, different play caller, and but it was also the Lions. So I think we'll learn a little bit against the Raiders this week. They've got our top-rated pass rush so far. They've been awesome with their 4-man rush in Las Vegas so far. So I want to see how Fields handles pressure, but I do think he'll get better with time because it's a rep thing. Like you have to rep it out, feel NFL speed, recognize NFL defenses. There's just this fine line between if he does have another game where he gets sacked 7, 8, 9 times, when does this become detrimental to the way he plays? And this is, I think, the Bears' concern this entire time, right? What is that balance? Because I don't think the Bears should be worried about winning games this year. They should only be worried about Justin Fields' development. What's the best thing we can do for Justin Fields in 2022, 23, 24? And so they have to make those decisions. In another game where he gets sacked that many times, you start to wonder, is that going to make him fidgety in the pocket? Is that going to affect his long-term development? So that's the key to keep an eye on here. But I think we'll see a lot of Fields making special plays. His arm talent was incredible. He showed it off against the Lions. 3-4 incredible throws. But he's just got to work a little bit quicker and work with the offense to just get to the open man just a little bit faster.
I heard a former OC this week, Mark Trestman, was talking about quarterbacks and how even in the NFL, Steve, that when they're hit early in the game, for the most part, it totally especially young guys, it totally throws them off for the rest of the game. That if you can keep them clean the first 2 possessions, a lot of times they can get in some rhythm. And even if they get hit in the second half, they'll play through it and so on. But you can't kind of reverse that. Have y'all looked into any of that, Steve?
I don't know that we could do that study for sure. I don't know if anybody has. Off the top of my head, it feels more like it's anecdotal. It's one of those, when I was pitching, they told you, leadoff walk scores 80% of the time. It's like, no, it scores 40% of the time, just like a single.
Gotcha.
It's always 40%, no matter, so it feels more like a feeling rather than, data driven. But I think the bottom line is, like, you want to keep your quarterback clean no matter what. I mean, if they get hit, yeah, of course, if they're under pressure too much, it's detrimental for every quarterback, whether it's Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or whether it's a rookie. So I think that's the key, is doing what you can to keep the quarterback comfortable, giving him clean pockets, and letting them operate that way.
What do the numbers tell you on the Chiefs and Mahomes this year?
So I think Mahomes has played well. His stats are still ridiculous. In part, he had 2 underhand touchdowns last week, and this is why I hate stats sometimes. He threw 5 touchdowns. 2 of them were underhand. He's got three underhand touchdowns, I think, so far this year, and 2 where Travis Kelce ran through the defense and Byron Pringle ran through the defense against the Ravens, where it was just a little dump off. So that's what we do at PFF, is separate the quarterback from what the actual Chiefs' offense is as productive as ever offensively, and Mahomes has played well. I think, some of the last year he got away with a lot of passes that didn't get intercepted that should have been or could have been. This year, that's reverting back a little bit. That's pretty much why they lost their 2 games. He threw 2 fourth-quarter interceptions. So, like any quarterback, he's got some plays he'd want to have back. He's right around 8th, 9th, or 10th in our quarterback rankings too. He's in Dak territory, but his stats are ridiculous because Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce remain as difficult to cover as any players in the league. So I think the Chiefs are offensively, they're fine. They just have to figure out a way to stop somebody defensively. And, part of that, they've run into at least 3 really good teams early on in a decent Eagles offense led by Jalen Hurts.
Who's playing well that we're not talking about?
I mean, Daniel Jones was the guy. I know we already talked about him, but again, it's just, separating what he's done from his production. I would say, if you watch Jones throw for throw, he's been fantastic. I think that's the one guy I would say that really stands out so far early in the season.
Roethlisberger.
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all. I like to debunk. I don't like the quarterback falls off a cliff theory, even though there's a lot of evidence that there's just a point where it's tough. And yeah, Tom Brady might be breaking that, but you saw Drew Brees here. You guys are Brees fans, and that's, Saints country. You just saw things look different for him the last year and a half or so. It started last year for Big Ben, and, I think there was hope that, hey, maybe he's a year removed from arm surgery and all that stuff. The ball's not coming out right. He's moving not well. He's moving like he's old. And he's missing throws, and it's just off. Yeah, he does not look good right now.
Steve Palazzolo, we've got 30 seconds, Steve. Tua Tagovailoa. How's he looked?
He's been banged up, so that's, I thought there were some strides early in the season, but there's still, the Patriots game week 1, he still chucked 2 into coverage and one in the fourth quarter that almost blew the game for the Dolphins. So he's just got to work within the system a little bit better and not try to, make too many big plays that he's not capable of. So jury's still out, I think, on Tua.
Do you think Joe Burrow will be a star?
Yeah, I think he's got all the makings. In, whatever star is, if he's Dak territory, which I think is possible, that's a top 8 quarterback. So Burrow's looking really good, very accurate, and playing extremely well right now.
All right. Let me apologize in advance if Blake texts you over the weekend on fantasy football. And I hope you have a great weekend. And we're looking forward to another. Well, we got a good game tonight. That's exciting.
Great game.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool to get a game in. A really good game on Thursday night. Be good, Steve P. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Text line's always open for fantasy advice. Thank you.
Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, NFL Insiders. Got a great NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo or Palazzolo, depending on where he is and what part of the country. We are the Out of Bounds Show, brought to you by the New York Style Pizza at Sal and Mookie's in Madison. They have great pizza specials